This is the Bob Cordaro Show on TV.
They fought for us, now he'll fight for you. The pursuit of justice and liberty. It's the Bob Cordaro Show on TV.
And now, Bob Cordaro.
Great, good morning, everyone. Good to be with you again this Sunday. Well, I guess you already know, Bob Cordaro, I'm your host. And today we're starting off with an annual event that I've been familiar with. It's been going on forever. We're going to have her tell us all about it. But then somebody else I have known forever, Gail Cicerini. She's one of the co-chairs for this Rotary of the Abingtons event. And it is an extraordinary event. But first, Gail, welcome.
Thanks, Bobby. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to be with you. It was just something that's worth promoting.
Okay.
Tell us, if you know, and to the extent you know, how did this all start? It's such an institution.
Well, I'm sure you knew the man who started it, Guy Kelly. And I got roped into helping him. And that's about 18 years ago.
Yeah.
And of course, Guy is retired down in South Carolina, having a wonderful time. And we have carried on the event. The event is very important to us, but it's also just a piece of the Rotary Club of the Abingtons.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit. Let's take a couple seconds just to talk about what are Rotarians? What's the Rotary Club thing?
Rotary is a service organization throughout the world in many, many, many countries. And it's service above self. Yeah. And so there are some incredible projects throughout the world, and we get to hear about them on a regular basis. Here locally, the Rotary Club of the Abingtons is very well known for their sponsorship of the fireworks every year up at the middle school in Clark Summit. And it's a huge operation, and it's also a very costly one. The cost of the event is somewhere between $18,000 and $20,000 per year. And but it's tremendous. There's thousands of people who come, food trucks, etc. And it's a good fireworks show. It's long.
You've been around the community quite a bit. You've always been involved in public service, Gail. And it's natural that you're here talking about this Taste of the Abingtons event.
Yeah. Well, I'm not from your area, but I've been here 53 years. I came here.
A carpetbagger, huh?
I am a carpetbagger from Alexandria, Virginia. But anyway, I've been involved with Rotary since 1990. I was actually sent there by the Waverly Community House because when I was hired as their director, it was the first time ever that the job description said, open the comm to the public. And so they thought, go to Rotary, become involved.
Let's talk about the event. Taste of the Abingtons. Give us the who, what, where, when, and why.
Okay, well, my wonderful co-chair, who didn't realize I was on the air today, is Ginny Johnson. And she is the manager of FNCB Clark's Green. And she's great to work with. She and I worked on this last year. And so we will be situated at the Country Club of Scranton for the second year in a row. They've been very good to us. And we will take over the ballroom, the sun porch, and also the exterior porch, which is all tented in.
And vendors come and...
Vendors come. We go after...
local restaurants.
Oh, yeah. We're looking for restaurants, breweries, and wineries. And the breweries and wineries can give samples, and they can sell their product as long as it's unopened, okay? And then the restaurants, they don't have to provide anything except about 300 bite-sized pieces. We give them tables, chairs, linens, flowers, PR, here we are. So it's a wonderful opportunity for restaurants old and new. And at this point, we already have a half a dozen signed up. And we try to give them newsprint, TV, radio, anything that'll promote the event. We sell tickets for $30. There are 3 banks that are selling them, FNCB, PS, and also at Classic Properties. You can buy tickets there, and Eventbrite.
Now, that is October 22nd.
Yep. It's a Sunday. It's 4 to 7 p.m.
Country Club of Scranton.
Yep. And if you're a vendor, we welcome you to come at 1 o'clock, and we help you set up. We've been aligned with the Boy Scout Troop 160 for over 75 years. So we help the vendors unload, load, etc. And we also have, with Rotary, you have a high school interact group that's part of Rotary. And in some cities, they have a Rotaract, which is college level. So those interact kids come and help us too.
Nice. So the 22nd, Scranton Country Club, Taste of the Abingtons. Gail Cicerini, thank you.
Bobby, thank you.
Road Scholar Transport is proud to sponsor Camp Freedom, where veterans go to heal and find peace. Go to roadscholar.com/Camp Freedom today and tell our veterans what their sacrifice means to you. Your message may be chosen for display on Road Scholar Transport trailers to be seen by thousands of people. Show our veterans how much you care. Send them your message today. Road Scholar Transport, a higher standard.
Our Power Player Brunch Player of the Week this week is Judge Carolyn Carluccio. She's running for Pennsylvania Supreme Court, but that's not why we have her on. I just have run across her, had the chance to interview her on the radio, and I just said, what a fascinating person, what a qualified person, and because she's a judge, it's not really politics. And so I said, when you could stop by the studio's television show, do it, and she has. Judge Carluccio, welcome.
Bob, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you got a whole state to cover. It's got to be exhausting.
It's been exhilarating. I can tell you that. We just left Pike County and Wayne County. We're back down here in Lackawanna. Tomorrow we're headed somewhere else. So it's been eye-opening and a lot of fun.
Yeah. Tell me about you, because we don't get a chance to talk to people who represent us as our judges. And in your case, you're a Montgomery County judge, president judge.
Yes.
And you have an opportunity to become a Supreme Court justice. People don't realize how impactful these positions are very often. Tell us about your background. Let's go all the way back to when you were a baby. Tell us about your family.
So I guess to understand me, that's a really great point. You have to know where I came from. And I do like to talk about my family. My dad is a first-generation Italian. My mom is this proud Irish woman. So if any of you out there have that Italian-Irish mix, you really understand what it was like to grow up that way. It was maybe a little bit loud, but in our house, we had a lot of love, but we also had a lot of rules. And as I look back on growing up, those rules are what made me who I am today. Yeah. And I think the most important ones, as I think back, was we always had to have family dinner together. My mother cooked every night and we always sat down together. I think that's an important part of how our family is very tight knit. We also always went to church together. That was also important. It didn't matter where we were either. We had to have church together. And finally, my dad taught us a lesson when we were really young. And the way we learned it was my sister and I were getting change back. Your dad gives you the $20 bill when you're out at breakfast to get the change. Mm-hmm. And the clerk had made a mistake and we got a little bit extra back, which of course as children, we thought, this is fabulous. Aren't we lucky? Yeah. And my father said to us, absolutely not. That's not the right thing. He had always told us, you do the right thing every single time. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. It doesn't matter if it's not popular. It doesn't matter if nobody else is watching. You do the right thing. So when I think back on my childhood, I think that one lesson has carried me through until today. I apply it in every aspect of my life.
So you go to high school down where? In that area?
I went in Montgomery County. I went in Fort Washington. It was a school called Germantown Academy. I was fortunate enough to go there. After that, I went to college at Dickinson College in Carlisle and had a great experience there, traveled abroad, learned an awful lot about people and about myself really at that stage. I was really a shy child before that. And I think that
you've gotten over that.
I think I've gotten over it. I love people. I love people. I love talking to people. And I think living away for a year has really helped me to bring that out.
Yeah.
And then I ended up in law school. And somehow I'm here.
So what's the first thing you did as a lawyer? What's your first job?
So as I first came out for a very short period of time, I was a public defender for a year. And I left there and became a federal prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Which Eastern District?
I was actually in the District of Delaware. I moved to the state of Delaware. Okay. And what was great about that was it was a small office. The state of Delaware, I think, is smaller than Wayne County. I'm not sure, but it's pretty small. Yeah. And I went there and I learned how to be a lawyer. That's certainly the place to learn. I was in the criminal division. I prosecuted large-scale drug cases. I prosecuted bank robbers, healthcare fraud.
It's not a small town in that respect.
No. I'll tell you. And I had the opportunity. I actually traveled throughout the country on a few drug cases. So that was a great opportunity. We would take a case. It's not like a local DA where sometimes you get thrown a case file and you had to do a trial right then. We were given the case. We worked with the FBI, the DEA. We would create the case with them and work the case from that perspective investigatively. And then we take the case to trial and try it before a jury. If it got appealed, I would write the appeal and argue it before the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. So that's soup to nuts on a case.
And that's a big deal because the smaller offices, you have to do your own appellate work.
Yes, you do. And I learned everything at that point. And I truly loved that job. After I did that, I came back to Montgomery County, which is where I'm from, and became the first woman chief public defender in the county. So I think that's really interesting change. A lot of people couldn't understand how I went from federal prosecutor to chief public defender. But really what it did was I understand how to protect our community at the same time as being able to uphold those constitutional rights that are afforded all those that are accused of crimes. So it's a great balance that I was able to achieve. And then from there, I became the first woman chief deputy solicitor in our county. Now, what that is, a solicitor, you may say, okay, I know it has something to do with the law. It's civil. And I represented the 52 departments in our county.
Big county.
It's a very large county. Can I tell you, at the same time I did that, our director of human resources for the county had passed away. And the commissioners came to me and said, you don't mind doing this at the same time as you're the chief deputy solicitor. And of course I said, I'll do what I can. So what was supposed to be a couple weeks, 7 and 8 months later, I was still doing both jobs. Now, Montgomery County, you say it's big. There were 3,700 county employees at the time. So what I learned from that was I can do anything. Because HR, if you've been in the HR, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of working with people.
Especially for political positions,
well,
government positions.
Government positions, But it certainly taught me a lot about how to work with everybody, every kind of person, every work of life.
What makes you decide to be a judge? Something's there. You've worked with a lot of judges in all the aspects of your career, but something makes Carolyn Carluccio say, I want to be a judge.
I think as I was progressing in my career, and I have an uncle who was a judge who was on my bench now, his last year's this year, and he was a great influence for me. He was, Uncle Joe was the Notre Dame football player that you all looked up to. He's younger than my mom, and he babysat for us. And when he became the district attorney in Montgomery County and then a judge, I thought, that's pretty cool. I want to do what he does. But I will also tell you, a lot of it was my personality. Because I do enjoy people. I do like working with people. I like trying to mediate things, try to work things out. I think I was drawn to it just because it was where my talents really were. Yeah. And I found, you never know. And when I became a judge, I'll never forget. First day I sat in that bench, I sat there and thought, you know what? This is really, I love this. I was made to do this. Now, I had loved every job I'd had. As you can see, I had varied jobs in the law, and I truly did love each one of them for different reasons. Yeah. But when I became a judge, I just knew it was the right place for me. And that's a rare thing. It's certainly, it's a lucky thing to be able to say that. And every day I'd come home and I'd say to my husband, I love this job. Yeah. And finally he said, okay, I get it. You love your job. But I truly did. And then I've been on the bench. This is my 14th year as a Court of Common Pleas judge in Montgomery County. I sat in almost every division. I handled cases from every division.
How many judges in Montgomery?
We now have 24 judges. And a year and a half ago, our president judge seat was up. And the way it works in counties over 7 judges is that the president judge is elected by the judges on the bench. And why I think this is important is the 24 judges on my bench, there are more Democrats than Republicans at this point. And of those judges, all 24, one of them's me, but voted for me. And that's important because it shows that they were able to put politics aside and they chose the person they believed was best able to fulfill that role. And I like to talk about that because it shows politics I'm not a politician. It has never driven me. I'm not, ideology doesn't drive me. What drives me is the law, following the law, doing the right thing every time. And I think when I became president judge, I was able to do that.
Goes back to Dad.
It does. Everything goes back to Dad, doesn't it? And I'd like to tell you a little story about my dad, now that you mentioned it, if that's okay. He's 92 years old. And as I said, he started his own business. 2 years ago, he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And he was a typical stubborn Italian because when the doctor said to him, "You have 3 months to live, Charlie. I want you to get your affairs in order." My father was like, "Yeah, thank you, but no, I am going to fight this." And that's what he's been doing for the last almost 2 years.
How about that?
And when I said I was going to be running for this, he went to his doctor and he said, "Give me the most aggressive treatment you have. I've got to see my daughter win this race." So that tells you a little bit about him. And then in the primary, right after the primary, he had gotten very sick and the chemo was too much for him because he is 92 years old. And he had gotten in the hospital and we didn't think he was going to make it. And when he got out, I called my mom and I said, "Does he seem a little stronger? What's going on?" And she said, "I looked over and he was on the floor this morning." And so, reaction was, "Mom, did he fall? Do you need me to come over?" And she said, "No." She said, "He was doing sit-ups." And so this tells you everything you need to know. He works out every morning for 45 minutes. He started 2 weeks ago. He started with a personal trainer because he needed a little more muscle tone. He is a fighter to the core.
I think I better get him as a guest.
You would love him. He is struggling, I'll be honest with you. He went back to work the next day. He works 3 days a week still, and he's still fighting. 2 days ago, I was with him, and he was picking out places to put my signs. He is a beloved man. He's a great businessman. He's good all the way through, and I am really lucky. And my mother is too. But I'm really lucky to have been raised the way I was raised. And I just love to tell that story because that work ethic, it comes, honestly, I have that. I have the drive. I have the passion for what I'm doing, the passion for my family, for my Commonwealth. It really is part of who we are.
That's a good point. Tell us about, you've obviously been everywhere. All 67 counties. What a diverse, big state Pennsylvania is. You've seen that firsthand, you're discovering. Tell us about your travels through the state, just not in the political sense, but in the general sense.
You're right about the fact that you don't understand it until you do it. Everybody said it's a really big state. Look out, it's a really big state. And there are just miles and miles. But what I've learned is a few things. One I've learned is the people are wonderful. They're just good to the core. I've learned that it's a beautiful state. I've never seen so many, just the vistas that we've seen and the sunsets and the sun as we're driving around. The scenery is beautiful. There's a lot of great places here I would never have been. The Grand Canyon of Pennsylvania. I would never have been to some of these businesses around. In Johnstown, there's a business there, Gap Facts. I wouldn't have known it existed, but it's fascinating to learn about it.
Horseshoe Curve.
Horseshoe
Curve out there.
It's just, and to get to be out there and to see what's really going on in our Commonwealth. Our Commonwealth, as everybody knows, Philadelphia and Allegheny County, and then you have all the middle, and could not be more different. But at the core, I think the people are all the same. And that's the important part.
I think one of the things people don't appreciate about the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is it's a huge farming state.
Yes, it is.
Huge dairy. All aspects of farming are a big deal here. This show covers 32 counties. And a majority of those are farming counties.
So we're just coming out of the summer. And in the summer, we've been to, I think, 36 county fairs. I don't know. I didn't count them, but I'm going to guess somewhere in that range. And what I've seen at these county fairs is a couple things. One is they all have their dairy queens and their, the courts and all the different queens, the sheep queen, and then they also have the 4-H programs. And what I've noticed is the children are raised in a way that is so wholesome. They work from the time they're very young by raising a pig or a cow and showing them in these shows at the fairs. They have great pride in their work. They understand to get up early and to do what you need to do. They understand responsibility. It's just been a beautiful thing to see. The children are very well spoken. They learn how to speak publicly. They learn how to present not only their animal, but themselves. And what a blessing that is. And to see more of that is just great. And the food at the fairs, I'm not gonna, it's really good. So the fairs have been fun and they've been eye-opening. And certainly I participated up in Butler County in a bunny hopping contest. I've been doing things I never thought I'd do. I drove an 18-wheel truck, go figure.
I like that.
But these are things that I would not have done but for being involved in this race.
Did you wear an Indian headdress? That seems to be the thing.
I did not.
You didn't get that? Well, you should do that.
Is that right?
Before this is all over. I just always found that to be interesting. See if you can find
I will take note of that. Thank you for that tip.
I just always saw the vice president of the United States, going way back. They always end up with an Indian headdress.
Somehow.
So somehow you got to get that done.
Okay.
The strain on family, the effort of a political campaign. It's not a political campaign, strictly speaking, but it's a lot of time away from home. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of traveling. You're incredibly fresh after a long day today, and how's that working for you and your gang?
Yeah, I'm married. My husband Tom has been incredibly supportive. I could not do it without that. He's a lawyer. And he understands the importance of this. And I think he truly believes I'm the right person for this. And I couldn't do it if he didn't. I have 3 boys and I tried to raise them the same way that I was raised. And they live not far from me. They're all incredibly supportive.
Oh, they're all grown up.
They're all grown up. All 3 of them are grown up. And I'm very proud of them. But they are supportive. I couldn't do it without that. My dad, obviously, my mom are very supportive. Yeah. I have I have a lot of cousins. And, the supportive family is everything. If you don't have
between the Irish and the Italian, that's a big
between
family.
The Irish and the Italian, I've got it all going. And they're all passionate and strong-willed. Yeah. And you've got those 2 elements, you can accomplish a lot.
Well, let's talk about your time as a judge now. Mm-hmm. To the extent you can, tell us about what you thought maybe one of your more interesting cases were.
Oh, I have so many. But I think if I talk about maybe the hardest cases, that also were very interesting. It was family court. And people don't always talk about that. Mm-hmm. They want to talk about maybe the medical malpractice cases or the big usually the criminal cases, what people want to hear about and talk about. But the family cases are the ones that really tug at my heartstrings. And I find that if I can help a family, I've accomplished an awful lot. Yeah. And it takes a lot. And I'm proud to say that I've had people reach out to me years later saying, you've saved me. You've saved me. I have a relationship with my kids now. I've lived a lot of life. And I think I was able to bring that to the table with family cases. Mm-hmm. And they're also some of the most challenging because it's the children that get caught in the middle. Yeah. And when you see a child hurting, there's nothing, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a woman. Those kind of things are important to me. And I care a lot about that. So I'd have to say those are the ones that I have found to be the most eye-opening, the most challenging, the most emotional.
Heart-wrenching.
Heart-wrenching, and people are not at their best in family court. People are just, when you involve their children, they become somebody different. The mama bear and papa bears come out. So it's hard to handle sometimes in the courtroom. But I found those to be sometimes the most rewarding cases and certainly the most challenging.
That's an interesting take because I'd never heard that before. I'd heard judges feeling like they're tortured by hearing family cases, but you looked at it in a different way.
You had to, because it's interesting. I was put into family court day one on the bench, and it happens with a lot of judges. And honestly, I had not practiced a day of family law. I never even took a family law class in law school. But what I found was I had a lot of life experience I could bring to the table. And I found that I could relate to a lot of people that came into my courtroom, was able to really talk to them. I do enjoy talking to litigants. And I'm able to do that with their attorneys there. We have a lot of pro se litigants too, which also make it very challenging in that court, more so than in any other court you have pro se.
Well, Judge Carluccio, you're not our first judge, you know. We had Tommy Munley on this show a couple of times, and he gave his viewpoint of the bench, but of his military experience and so forth. But you're the highest ranking judge we've had.
Well, thank you. That's good to hear. Hopefully that continues.
Well, you've got another couple of months of really out there hustling.
Yes, we do.
And is it an everyday, all day thing almost?
So I'm still working. And that's been a challenge too, because I have my responsibilities to my county and to my bench, and I'm not going to let those slip. A lot of it I'm able to do remotely, so I'm lucky for that. But I'm in the courthouse, I'm in the courtroom trying to settle cases. But at the same time, I'm working this as hard as I can, getting to all 67 counties, making sure that I'm talking to as many people as I can. You know, Pennsylvania has 13 million people in it, and I certainly can't talk to all of them. But I like to reach out to as much as I can. I love what I do. And I can say that with an absolutely true heart. And whatever it is, whatever the big plan is for me, I'm willing to follow it. I have a lot of energy, as you can see. Nobody's accused me of not having energy. I get that from my dad, too, as he runs up the steps at 92 years old. I'm right there behind him. But I also have a lot of passion, and I have a lot of empathy. And I think all of that is brought to, I bring it to the bench with me. And I follow the law. I understand my role as a judge. And that's an important piece also.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, Judge Carluccio, good to have you here. We're so happy you visited. The people of Montco are certainly well served, and the people of Pennsylvania hopefully will be too.
I certainly appreciate it, Bob. I had a great time.
All right.
Thank you.
Judge Carolyn Carluccio, our Power Brunch Player of the Week, brought to you by Road Scholar Transport. Until next week, we will see you on the Bob Cordaro Show on TV. Of course, all our episodes are available on YouTube. We have a lot of SCTV, BCTV extras. And there's always something to see if you go under the Bob Cordaro Show on TV. And this episode will be among them after we air this Sunday. Judge Carluccio, thank you again.
Thank you.
Road Scholar Transport, a higher standard.
Thanks for being part of the program. You've got an appointment every Sunday morning at 11:30 right here on WNEP TV, The Bob Cordaro Show on TV.
They fought for us, now he'll fight for you. The pursuit of justice and liberty.